So, hey, let's have some fun today. Let's take apart an overseas original and the very first generation, the 46 week of 2002. I've never took apart an overseas original, but I got confidence, but it'd be interesting. I'm gonna do an oil change on it and check the oil return. I was direct messaging Brian Hicks, and he was telling me that these are crap. The first, like the 2002 to 2005, they require extreme maintenance because the oil return line is very small and it can get clogged up, and you just lost the fan within 48 hours is all it takes for the bearing material to wear away and the motor to just magnetically attract against the side and just lock up the rotor. And yeah, it's pretty bad. I got my overseas. I got my restored fan sitting over here, but it's still full of oil. So I'm gonna stuff towels up into here all around, and then flip the fan over. I'm gonna take the down rod out and stuff towels in here too. I'm gonna treat it like it's an American made. Like, oil's also gonna come out here too. Yeah, no, that's not loose. All right, I'm gonna do that real quick. All right, down rod's not coming out. I had a buddy hold onto the motor while I stuck a screwdriver through the claw, and yeah, I was giving it nice amounts of torque. This down rod is like locked up in here, and I guess I could get a pipe wrench on here since the paint is already damaged on this down rod. So I get a pipe wrench on here and try to remove it, but I don't have a pipe wrench. So I'm just gonna work with it. I'm just gonna stuff towels up in here. And if it does, since this is overseas, I don't know if it's gonna come up through here like the American does. I'm just gonna stuff towels in here just in case. All right, so the bucket I was sitting on, I had the fan in that. Well, I sit on the styrofoam cooler that was creaking when I sat down on it. So if I happen to catch myself falling with this thing collapsing, I'll keep in the video. Y'all get to see me and y'all get to laugh when this styrofoam cooler collapses underneath me, if it does. But yeah, I got the oil draining into the towel here. I'm about ready to pop the switch cap off here. Let's go ahead and do that. Which, these didn't come with switch caps, so I had to buy new ones. And I like to share a tip. When I install light kits on these fans, I take the switch cap and I scotch tape it to the top of the motor so it stays with the fan. Since the top of the motor is relatively flat, you're only gonna block like one hole. You're not really gonna overheat the motor by blocking one little hole. But yeah, I have just like with this fan up here, the switch cap is taped to the top of the motor so it stays with the fan. Now, this fan's, I don't think it's ever had a light kit on it. Oh yeah, it has. The big schoolhouse globes. But I'm gonna pull everything out, unscrew the switch cap, and see how different it is. Oh, I'm gonna take off the faceplate. And see how much different this is compared to the American originals. And one little thing is, they had glue here that was very hard. I had to use a pocket knife to try to cut up that glue so I can pull out the reverse switch. Alright, so I just ran to O'Reilly's Auto Parts, got me some crimps because, yeah, this is way different than the Americans. Well, I don't know if there's, because this is literally a year before it, 2001, and it has the old style reverse switch where you plug a wire in, and you have to be very careful removing the wires. You have to use a nail of the same diameter as the wire, because if you use something any larger, you bend the spring tab too far, and then the wire won't plug into the switch anymore. But these are soldered to the switch, and the wires are crimped over here, so you have to remove the crimps and then re-crimp the wires. So that's fun. So I'll go ahead and just remove the crimps, mark down where each wire goes. Yeah. Alright, so the styrofoam cooler didn't give out yet. This is a learning curve for me. I've jotted down all the wires, and I squeezed the crimps to open them up to pop the wires out. That actually wasn't too bad. And then I removed the wires, removed the pole speed switch, and I'm like, all right, so let's get to unscrewing the switch housing. Interesting. So when you unscrew it this way, it comes up to come off. Well, guess what? I'll unscrew it. Oh, and it binds on me, and it doesn't want to unscrew. I'm like, what the? It locks up, as if you're tightening it when you tighten it to go down. Twisting up the wires here. All right. This is going down towards the motor to tighten up. What the fuck am I witnessing right now? Now it's coming off. All right, guys, I'm in a bit of a, excuse me for the cursing, I'm in a bit of a mindfuck. All right, because oh my gosh, I was going one way and it was tightening up on me, and I was going the other way and it was tightening up on me. I'm like, what is this? All right, so do I have to take out the faceplate and take off the whole motor and like pull the whole thing out? Like, no, because this is a learning experience. All right, so there it goes. It's coming off now. I'm so sorry about the curse words, but by the way, I did think it was this little screw right here that was binding up on something right here on the side of the switch housing. So I removed that. By the way, I gotta pull that O-ring out. And I removed that, and it was still binding up in both directions. Like, it would lock up here, and I'll go the other way around and it would lock up there, and then I would remove it again, and it'll lock up there. So I'm like, all right, so I can't pull this off. Well, it just decided to, I guess, work itself free during video recording. So, all right, let's pull this thing out, pull this rotor off, and see what it looks like underneath, what the bearing looks like, what the spiral grooves looks like, or how this thing is constructed, because this is my first time taking apart a skeletal motor. All right, so I just pulled off the switch housing, got my dirty oil all over it, and it's much like your normal setup. It still has your bearing, your normal bearing, and can't turn on my flash right there, but there's oil return lines. Let me go ahead and pop this off. So I went ahead and popped off the C clip, or the C clip, with this awesome tool. Now I gotta pick up the screws I just dropped. But yeah, there's your spiral grooves. There's the oil return line. But I heard from Brian Hicks that is very tiny and clogs up easily, and bye-bye Hunter Original. And by the way, I have a pole speed switch sitting over here. There's a reverse switch, and there's a light kit wire, and one of the wires that connects from the crimp to the pole speed switch. And there's the bearing. It's just like your bearing in the American originals. There's the bottom part, the isolator, the bottom race, the bearing in the top race, and then the top isolation ring. And now, let's see about pulling this off. I think it just slides right out. All right, so now that I have SAE 10 oil all over my iPhone, yeah. There's the flywheel sitting on a paper towel. Oil still getting on my ground, but it's all right. And then there's this cover. Oh, by the way, Hunter had this little stripped wire just sitting around in the fan. And underneath, I really should see about turning on my flashlight here, but there's the capacitor underneath this. I don't know. Why am I talking? I just get this removed. All right, got the cover removed. There's two capacitors, and there's not much going on. You know, the bearing's right here. It picks up the oil, just comes up a couple inches, and then drops right back down to the oil return on the flywheel to get recirculated. while the American goes all the way to the top and comes back down. All the coils are outside here. The casting is different. This that has these standoffs for you to connect the cover, and where the wires went through a hole on the American ones to come up through the top of the motor to come back in, like this. They still have the hole here, but not there. It's blocked off. So this is my first time tearing apart the overseas. There are some differences, but it wasn't too challenging to take off. You know, the fact that, yeah, you have to remove crimps instead of just unplugging wires from the reverse switch and the pull speed switch. By the way, I didn't mention, I don't know if I did. Yeah, I did, but you have to use a nail or something with the same diameter as the wire that's going into the reverse switch. That way you don't bend the spring-loaded tab inside the reverse switch too far back. That way a wire won't stick in there, and you just basically destroy the reverse switch, and you would have to dismantle it and rebuild it if you can, or get a new reverse switch. But with these reverse switches on this, the wires are soldered and then they're crimped, so you have to remove the crimps, and you would have to get new crimps. But other than that, yeah, I removed that switch housing unscrews. I had some type of weird trouble removing the switch housing, but it actually unscrewed at this time. And then, yeah, I'm gonna clean all this old oil off. Make sure the oil return line is cleaned up out of that flywheel there, and put it all back together, put fresh oil back in it. This is what's inside the skeletal motors. There's a little cover right there that y'all are used to seeing from the top. The plate grill is solid cast iron. That's why these fans, I noticed when I was hanging up these overseas originals, I noticed they were heavier than the Americans. Slightly. It's because this faceplate is pure cast iron. Interesting. By the way, here's the flywheel. There's the hole for the oil return. Nice and heavy. Oh, let's check out the values of these capacitors. Oh no, they're screwed down. All right, got the screws out. 4.5 microfarads. Oh, there's a nice date on there. September 3rd, 2002. The fan was finished in December, the 46th week of 2002. And then we have a 6 microfarad. And 5 microfarad. Alright, so I'm gonna clean up all the oil, put this fan back together. It was nice taking a look inside this overseas skeletal motor. It definitely needs a lot more attention, otherwise it's gonna seize up on you. The reason I'm saying that is that when this clogs up and then you get no oil flow, the bearing surface in here and on this shaft wears out, and the distance from the edge to the distance inside that flywheel there is very fine. So if the differences of the bearing surface wears out here, it's gonna start rubbing up against and seizing the motor on this edge and the inside of that flywheel right there. So yeah, this is the stator. That's the flywheel. I know there's technical terms and what they're actually called, but yeah, when the bearing surfaces wears in the center, the whole flywheel will shift, and because it will be magnetically attracted. That's the center right here is what's holding that away from the stator and the flywheel. And once this surface wears, within 48 hours of use, you know, when it clogs up, then it starts to rub and seize it's just not good at all. So I guess that is the crappy design of making the oil return very tiny, and it gets clogged up easier than the Americans. And all right, so that is that. That's what it's like inside these skeletal motors.